In a stunning escalation of federal workforce cuts, the IRS has laid off 7,000 employees, roughly 6 to 7% of its total staff, right in the middle of tax season. At the same time, the Trump administration is openly discussing abolishing the agency altogether, proposing to replace federal income taxes with tariffs on foreign goods. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick has framed this as a way to explode the economy, while critics warn it will shift the tax burden onto consumers and send prices skyrocketing. Behind the scenes, the IRS is reportedly preparing to grant Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, access to taxpayer data, a move supposedly intended to root out fraud and waste. But this raises deep concerns about privacy, financial targeting, and the increasing privatization of tax enforcement. Meanwhile, the agency's newly appointed commissioner, former Congressman Billy Long, who has previously advocated for abolishing the IRS, now finds himself overseeing the controlled demolition. But to what end? For every $1 spent on IRS employees, the agency recovers $14 from high-income tax evaders. Cutting IRS enforcement isn't about saving money. It's about losing money on purpose. And that loss doesn't fall on everyone equally. It benefits those who hoard wealth while shifting the burden onto regular taxpayers. By weakening enforcement, high-income tax evasion will skyrocket, draining public revenue until funding for essential services becomes unsustainable. The result? An economic crisis that justifies slashing social programs and pushing privatized solutions. But this isn't just about dismantling the IRS, it's about replacing it, not with nothing, but with AI-driven economic control that makes wealth permanently untouchable at the top, while ensuring tax collection is hyper-efficient for everyone else. The AI tools that could have assisted experts to detect fraud will instead find their application in review of the everyday 1040 and 1040 EZ. The technology will become weaponized to protect the rich, automate austerity, and permanently shift economic power away from the public sphere. If we let this happen, we won't just lose the IRS, we'll lose any democratic say in how money moves at all. Here's our analysis of how they are doing it. The first step is straightforward. They fire human tax enforcement officers, especially those specializing in complex audits, financial crime, and high-net-worth tax evasion. These specialists track hidden wealth, offshore accounts, shell corporations, and sophisticated fraud networks that cost the U.S. government over $600 billion annually. Cutting them loose isn't just about shrinking government. It's about making high-income tax evasion easier and less risky. In place of human auditors, AI systems will be deployed. At first, this sounds efficient, but AI tax enforcement will not target the wealthy. It will focus on volume, meaning low and middle-income earners will face more audits than ever before. AI doesn't investigate billionaires' hedge fund tricks. It flags W-2 employees, gig workers, and small businesses for minor filing errors. Meanwhile, AI will also be used by the wealthy to defend their assets. With real-time data analysis, machine learning algorithms will predict tax law changes before they happen, allowing corporations and billionaires to restructure their wealth before new regulations take effect. High-frequency trading algorithms will move taxable assets into untouchable digital forms, shifting money faster than human regulators can react. In short, AI will serve the rich as both a shield and a weapon, making meaningful taxation of the ultra-wealthy almost impossible. Once tax revenues inevitably plummet due to unchecked high-income tax evasion, the system will enter its next phase, justifying public budget cuts. Instead of admitting that deliberate policy choices caused the shortfall, politicians will point to deficits and say, "We can't afford to fund these programs anymore." AI-driven budgeting will then take over, introducing algorithmic austerity. Rather than elected officials debating where to allocate funds, AI models will determine which government programs are inefficient and should be defunded. These models will be programmed, not neutrally, but in a way that prioritizes corporate-friendly solutions over public investment. AI won't cut defense spending or corporate subsidies. Instead, it will slash Social Security, education, infrastructure, and public health care, all under the guise of neutral economic optimization. Because these cuts will be framed as the result of an objective AI process, there will be no one to hold accountable. If Social Security is gutted, officials won't take responsibility. They'll simply say, the AI determined it was unsustainable. Human decision-making will be replaced by a black box algorithm that no one can challenge, and public oversight will be effectively eliminated. As AI tax enforcement expands, its true purpose will become clear, not to close tax loopholes, but to shift the tax burden downward. With wealthy individuals protected by AI-driven tax avoidance strategies, enforcement efforts will target those who cannot afford to fight back. Workers will see more automated wage garnishments, AI-generated penalties for minor errors, and tax bills that cannot be appealed. Small businesses and independent contractors will be audited at higher rates, not because they evade the most taxes, but because they are the easiest to penalize. AI will ensure compliance through instant fines, real-time transaction monitoring, and automated debt collection, creating an inescapable cycle of financial precarity for millions of people. At the same time, AI-driven wealth management tools will ensure that billionaires' fortunes remain untouchable. AI will continuously scan for new tax loopholes, automatically shifting assets across borders before regulators can react. Wealth will no longer be hidden. It will be programmed to be untraceable in real time. This is not just a tax policy shift. This is a fundamental restructuring of economic power, where taxation becomes a burden for the working class and an illusion for the wealthy. As AI takes over taxation, budgeting, and spending decisions, the role of democratic governance will shrink. The government will no longer have the ability to fund public programs, regulate financial crime, or challenge corporate power, because the economic system itself will be controlled by AI models designed to prioritize corporate interests. Public services will begin to fail, not because government is inherently inefficient, but because deliberate AI-driven decisions will starve them of resources. Infrastructure projects will stall. Public schools will deteriorate. Hospitals will be overwhelmed. And when that happens, people will not blame the billionaires who stopped paying taxes. They will blame the government itself, further eroding faith in public institutions. This is how privatization becomes permanent. Once public systems are weak enough, corporations will step in with for-profit alternatives. AI will determine who gets access to clean water, who can afford emergency medical care, and who deserves financial assistance. Not based on need, but on profitability. The final outcome isn't just a smaller government. It's a government that functions entirely as a front end for private AI-driven economic rule. Once AI controls taxation, spending, and enforcement, we will no longer live in a democracy but in a privatized financial autocracy. AI will ensure that taxation is no longer about funding public goods. It's about optimizing revenue extraction from the working class. Billionaire wealth will be permanently untouchable, protected by real-time AI-driven legal and financial strategies. Public services will collapse, ensuring that survival is determined by corporate access rather than democratic governance. And once this system is fully automated, it cannot be reversed. No politician will be able to intervene because AI will be framed as neutral and objective. There will be no single person responsible, no laws to repeal, no hearings to hold. The system itself will be self-reinforcing, locking wealth and power into an unbreakable digital fortress. This isn't just about abolishing the IRS. It's about privatizing economic governance entirely. AI will not make taxation fairer. AI will not fix corruption. AI will not bring transparency. AI will only serve the interests of those who program it. If we allow AI to dictate taxation, spending, and public policy, we aren't just giving up control over government. We are surrendering the entire concept of economic fairness. The IRS isn't collapsing. It's being replaced, not with something fairer, not with something simpler, but with an AI-powered economic system designed to keep the ultra-wealthy untouchable forever. And if we don't fight for public control over AI now, we may never get another chance.